and welcome. This is Brandon Smith live in the Forbidden Library, and I'm a little sick. I have big snuffles, and I have a cold, and it's poop. I don't like it. But we are surviving, and we are streaming today anyway. Hello everyone, thank you for coming. Hello XDom, hello Red Candy Guy, hello Normal Size Phantom, good evening. You got to see 2 of your Oshis live in concert yesterday. It was my first concert ever, and I'm still a little tired, but it was super fun. That's so exciting! Concerts are amazing, you should go to more. Live music is the shit. It's very good. And very loud, very bouncy, very fun. I have been to some concerts in my life. Not many, honestly, not many. I didn't go to many when I was younger, cause I didn't like the loud noise. I don't mind so much now. When it's one big loud noise, it's not too bad, and that's what a concert is. It's one big loud noise, not lots of little noises to make a loud noise. That's when it's bad. Anyway, it's Sunday. I present the spreadsheet to you because I have read 3 things this week. 3 whole things. I went to the comic book shop again. Yeah, Christmas suit. We're gonna get it next week too. We're using it till Christmas cause we're gonna. And I like having the 3D on this stream because every other stream I do, for the most part, I'm just holding a controller. So it's not that fun to have hand tracking when you're just holding a controller all the time. This one's the fun one because I can gesture all I want. I don't have to type anything, click anything. It's great. We can just do what we want. Anyway, I went to the comic book shop. I went into the comic book shop. I had no intentions of buying anything at the comic book shop, and then I came out with 3 comics. So, here we go. Let's add them to the list. So, 179. We read Day of the Dead Girl. It is a comic. I should probably put issue 1 because I do actually have the 2nd issue already. I went back to the comic book store after reading 2 of these and got the 2nd issue. So this is issue 1, as you do. Yes. 3 whole things. I know, right? Shadow Claw Jutsu. Not a comic. And it is by many people because comics are. It's by A.J. Mendez. I need like a... That'll do. Amy Garcia, who I think is a TV show actress, but I'm not sure what she's been in. I think... Is it? I'm gonna double check. I would like to give you the information if I can. A-I-M-E-E Garcia. Let's Google her. It is Ellen! Have you ever seen What's a Majigger? Lucifer, the TV show Lucifer. She's Ella Lopez from Lucifer. So Ella Lopez wrote this one with her friends. Belen Cuevas. C-U-L-E-B Bras. Yes. This is a series again. Because everything's a series. Yeah. Yeah, she doesn't act so much anymore, but she writes a comic book. And Day of the Dead Girl is about a coroner who's moved back in with her mum to help her mum afford the house. And there's some supernatural killings, and her witch mother need to help figure out what's going on before Day of the Dead becomes a bloodbath. 180 is The Fade, issue 1. A comic by... I don't have any fun facts on this one. Ria. Ga. And Mari Costa. I feel like we've had that name before. We've had a Costa recently. I'm sure. That name rings a bell. Series. This one's about a viral TikTok or viral internet thing where you can do a ritual before you go to bed to go dream about a fantasy world. So I'm very interested in where that goes. I got the second one, I'm curious. And the last one was a one-shot, 181. I'm not even sure what the technical title is for this one, but it's, I'm just gonna call it Knuckles 30th Anniversary One-Shot. Cause it's about Knuckles! Knuckles. And who did this one? Flynn, Hammerstrom, Pinto, and Mac. And this one was standalone. This was cute. This was about the Sonic Superstars, new character they introduced in Sonic Superstars, who is also a guardian of her island. So Knuckles went and tried to like help her out by teaching her some things, and it was very sweet. So those are the 3 things I have read. Now let me do some maths. And by that I mean load up the calculator. So 10,000 minus 181 equals 9,819. Captain Knuckles from the Misadventures of Flatbag. Nah, Knuckles the Echidna. Knuckles the Echidna. Sonic stuff. Speaking of, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days till Sonic 3 comes out. Just so you're all aware. Just so you're all aware. Nope, that's not that type. That one. This. Well, it'll be 19, not 18, right? Yeah. 19. We're less than 20 away from our next 200. Last time we did 100, I published another short story book. I don't know if I've written enough short stories in this time to do that. To be fair, there is something I have been wanting to publish that is a short story, so maybe I should save it until we get to the 200 and then I'll publish that. Right, quickly save that, get down, and then we Wuthering Heights. I'm sure you'll be very normal and reserved about it. I will be so very normal and crying and reserved about it and screaming. I'll be fine. Oh. Schnaffles. I will be the you don't want to be in the screening with me when it happens. When I eventually see that thing. I've heard that they're gonna do a 4th. There's gonna be a teaser for a 4th movie. The Sonic voice actor apparently teased it and said that game fans would be excited about it, but I don't know what he means. I'm just what does he mean? He could be talking about anything, because they have such a weird collection of characters, because obviously by the end of this movie they're gonna have Sonic, Knuckles, Tails, and Shadow. This is a Strange 4 collection. They could get Silver in and potentially do Sonic 06 fairly well with just that collection of characters. They could be like, fuck it, let's bring in the Soul Dimension and bring in Blaze. That could be fun. They can't really do Sonic Adventure 1 because of the lore change to the Chaos Emeralds. Ugh. Anyway, Wuthering Heights. Wuthering Heights. Let me get a fresh tissue. There we go. Witnessing your favorite dark colored character who was adopted by a family and vowed to revenge after his death is his beloved sister. It will be so much fun. It will! It'll be great. Even though his adoptive dad is still alive, Knuckles Chaotix. I mean, yeah, I guess they could bring in Chaotix. My fiance was like, Sonic Heroes, and I'm like, Sonic Heroes, you couldn't really... I mean, you kinda could, because all you need is Metal Sonic, really, and then you're basically there, but it also, like, what... I mean, the thing they could do, the thing they really, really, really could do, is if they pull on the fact that, if they keep that Shadow is part alien, and then have Space Daddy come down. If they end this with the Black Arms invasion, I will freak the fuck out. They could do it, and we could have a whole movie against the Black Arms. That'd be great. It'd be great. Or will it? I don't know. But Wuthering Heights. Imagine mid-credit scene being Sonic turning into the werewolf. Oh my god! Could they do Unleashed? Kinda, maybe. I mean, Unleashed is all about the giant monster in the planet, so why not, I guess? It doesn't have much plot, Unleashed, though. Not much, really. Sonic gets turned into a werehog. Sonic finds a weird character called Chip. They go around and do things. Eggman is evil. Big monster in the middle of the planet. Oh yeah, the planet gets like torn apart in that. Or I thought if they really wanted to go balls to the wall, they could do Sonic Forces. Because in Sonic Forces, Eggman takes over the world. And the whole thing is that you're like underground fighters that have to get the world back. So, like, if they really wanted to go balls to the wall, they could have Eggman win in this movie and then have the next movie be Sonic Forces. But then, I guess we'd be missing Infinite, I guess. Which, he's not really that necessary to Sonic Forces, let's face it. I mean, he is. He's the main antagonist, but Eggman's the one that took over the world. Infinite just kind of gave him the military he needed, because he could make, like, copies of things. Infinite copies, you might say. And he kept trying to throw Sonic into the Shadow Realm, but then with the power of OCs and friendship, we got out of the Shadow Realm, so it's fine. Anyway, it's 20 minutes. I've been allowed 20-minute rant on my favorite things. I hope you guys are ready for I probably won't do a video, but I do plan on, like, having a crazed rant in a voice file for you guys to enjoy after the movie. I recommend not listening to it if you don't want spoilers, though, because I will just freak out on that, and it'll be great. Anyway, Wuthering Heights. So a lot of people popped their clogs last time on Wuthering Heights, which is what I wanted to name this video, but I really wasn't sure I wasn't sure if titling the stream "Clogs Have Been Popped" would actually make sense to many people outside the UK. I don't know if it's a saying well used, like House on Fire, etc. So many people's buckets have been kicked in this one. So I don't know what's going to happen now. We've had Catherine finally died. Hindley finally died. Wow, my nose is so ticklish, and I always feel like I'm gonna sneeze, but I'm not. Isabella ran away, but Isabella was preggers when she ran away. We have clocks have been punched here in the States. That makes sense. Clogs have been popped doesn't make sense. I'll admit that. clocks have been punched makes more sense. So I wasn't sure what's going to happen next. Because Heathcliff is officially the master of the Wuthering Heights. And yeah, I guess we'll just find out. The 12 years continued, Mrs. Dean, following that dismissal period, were the happiest of my life. My greatest troubles in the passage rose from our little lady's trifling illness, which she had come to experience in common with all children, rich and poor. For the rest, after the first 6 months, she grew like a larch, and could walk and talk too, in her own way, before the heath blossomed a second time over in Mrs. Linton's dust. Oh yeah, so Catherine left behind a baby too. I forgot about that. Oh, sure. She was the most whining thing that ever brought sunshine into a desolate house. Winning? Whining? I'm not sure. Winning. Is she winning, child? Never brought sunshine into a desolate house. A real beauty in the face, with the Earnshaw's handsome dark eyes, but the Linton's fair skin, and small features, and yellow curling hair. Her spirit was high, though not rough, and qualified by a heart sensitive and lively to excess in its affection. That capacity for intense attachments reminded me of her mother. She still did not resemble her, for she could be soft and mild as a dove, and she had a gentle voice and pensive expression. Her anger was never furious, her love never fierce. It was deep and tender. However, it must be acknowledged, she had faults to foil her gifts. A propensity to be saucy was one, and a perverse will that indulged children invariably acquire, whether they be good-tempered or cross. If a servant chanced to vex her, it was always, "I shall tell Papa!" And if he reproved her, even by a look, you would have thought it a heart-breaking business. I wouldn't believe her. I wouldn't believe he ever did speak a harsh word to her. He took her education entirely on himself, and made it an amusement. Fortunately, curiosity and a quick intellect made her an apt scholar. She learned rapidly and eagerly, and did honour his teachings. Yeah, she's not winning considering she's Heathcliff's neighbour. Catherine 2.0 has the wacky stuff patched out. Yeah, she's just a little baby brat, which, you know, kids are. I am really sorry for the nostril noises today. I do apologize. Till she reached the age of 13, she had not once been beyond the range of the park by herself. Mr. Linton would take her with him a mile or so outside on rare occasions, but he trusted her to no one else. Gimmerton was an unsubstantial name in her ears. The chapel, the only building she had approached or entered, except her own home. Wuthering Heights and Mr. Heathcliff did not exist for her. She was a perfect recluse, and apparently perfectly contented. Sometimes, indeed, while surveying the country from her nursery window, she would observe, "Ellen, how long will it be before I can walk to the top of those hills? I wonder what lies on the other side. Is it the sea?" "No, Miss Cathy," I would answer. "It is hills again, just like these." "And what are those golden rocks, like when you stand under them?" she once asked. The abrupt descent of Pennystone Crags particularly attracted her notice, especially when the setting sun shone on it and the topmost heights. and the whole extent of landscape besides lay in shadow. I explained that they were bare masses of stone, with hardly enough earth in their clefts to nourish a stunted tree. Given the neighbours I don't blame. Being a recluse does sound like the best idea. I'm honestly surprised Linton still lives here. I'm kind of surprised he hasn't just taken his fortune and moved or something. That would be the smartest plan. Be like, I don't want to be near these idiots again. Rude. But you're right. And why are they so bright so long after it is evening here? She pursued. Because they are a great deal higher up than we are, replied I. You could not climb them. They are too high and steep. In winter the frost is always there before it comes up to us. And deeper into summer I have found snow under the blank hollow on the northeast side. Oh, you have been on them? She cried gleefully. Then I can go too, when I am a woman. Has Papa been, Ellen? Papa will tell you, miss, I answered hastily, that they are not worth the trouble of visiting. The moors, where you ramble with them, are much nicer. And Thrushcross Park, Thrushcross is still the worst line to read. It's the finest place in the world. But I know the park. I don't know those, she murmured to herself. And I should delight to look round from the brow of the tallest point. My little pony Minnie shall take me sometime. One of the maids, mentioning the fairy cave, quite turned her head with desire to fulfill this project. She teased Mr. Linton about it, and he promised she should have the journey when she got older. But Miss Catherine measured her age by months, and now I am old enough to go to Pennystone Crags, was the constant question in her mouth. The road hither wound close by Wuthering Heights. Edgar had not the heart to pass it, so she received as constantly the answer, "Not yet, love, not yet." People didn't really move back then, ancestral homes and all. Yeah, that's true. Also, like, traveling is hard. It's a bit easier to move halfway up the country when trains exist. Or planes. This is like when Mufasa was showing Simba the Pride Lands, and they said, all belong to them except that one place, don't go. Everything belongs to you except Wuthering Heights, don't go there. Just don't do it. I said Mrs. Heathcliff lived above a dozen years after quitting her husband. Her family were of a delicate constitution. She and Edgar both lacked the ruddy health that you will generally meet in these parts. That's another good reason why. If he's not really that healthy, the move would be very difficult. What her last illness was, I am not certain. I conjecture they died from the same thing. A kind of fever, slow at its commencement, but incurable, and rapidly consuming life towards the close. She wrote to inform her brother of the probable conclusion of a 4 months' indisposition under which she had suffered, and entreated him to come to her, if possible, for she had much to settle, and she wished to bid him adieu and deliver Linton safely into his hands. Her hope was that Linton might be left with him, and with him as he had been with her. His father, she would fain convince herself, had no desire to assume the burden of his maintenance or education. My master hesitated not a moment in complying with her request. Reluctant as he was to leave home at ordinary calls, he flew to answer this. commending Catherine to her particular vigilance in his absence, with reiterate orders that she must not wander out of the park, even under my escort. He did not calculate her ongoing unaccompanied. He was away 3 weeks. The first day or two, my charge sat in a corner of the library, too sad for either reading or playing. In that quiet state she caused me little trouble, but it was succeeded by an interval of impatient, fretful weariness, and being too busy and too old then to run up and down amusing her, I hit on a method by which she might entertain herself. I used to send her on her travels round the grounds, now on foot, and now on a pony, indulging her with a patient audience of all her real and imaginary adventures when she returned. Good old Victorian novel disease. Fair and delicate maidens, look, everyone's dying of sepsis. The summer shone in full prime, and she took such a taste for this solidarity rambling that she often contrived to remain out from breakfast till tea, and then the evenings were spent in recounting her fanciful tales. I did not fear her breaking bounds, because the gates were generally locked, and I thought she would scarcely venture forth alone, if they had stood wide open. Unluckily, my confidence proved misplaced. Catherine came to me one morning at 8 o'clock, and said she was that day an Arabian merchant going to cross the desert with his caravan. No sneeze. It feels like a sneeze, but there's no sneeze. Yeah, you never see one of these pure, lovely maidens in these novels die of dysentery or something. And I must give her plenty of provisions for herself and beasts, a horse and 3 camels, personated by a large hound and a couple of pointers. I got together good stories of dainties and slung them in a basket on one side of the saddle, and she sprang up as gay as a fairy, sheltered by her wide-brimmed hat and gauze veil from the July sun, and trotted off with a merry laugh, mocking my cautious counsel to avoid galloping and come back early. The naughty thing never made her appearance at tea. One traveller, the hound, being an old dog and fond of its ease, returned, but neither Cathy nor the pony, nor the 2 pointers were visible in any direction. I dispatched emissaries down this path and that path, and at last went wandering in search of her myself. There was a labourer working at a fence round a plantation on the borders of the grounds. I inquired of him if he had seen our young lady. I saw her at morn, he replied. She would have me to cut her with a hazel switch, and then she leapt her galloway over the edge yonder, where it is lowest, and galloped out of sight. You may guess how I felt hearing this news. It struck me directly that she must have started for Pennystone Crags. What will become of her? I ejaculated, pushing through a gap which the man was repairing, and making straight for the high road. I walked as if for a wager, mile after mile, till a turn brought me in view of the heights. No Catherine I could detect, far or near. The crags lie about 1.5 miles beyond Mr. Heathcliff's place, and that is from the Grange. So I began to fear I would fall ere I could reach them, and that if she could have slipped in clambering among them, I reflected, and been killed or broken some of her bones. My suspense was truly painful, and at first it gave me delightful relief to observe, in hurrying by the farmhouse, Charlie, the finest of the pointers, lying under the window, with swelling head and bleeding ear. I opened the wicket and ran to the door, knocking vehemently for admittance. A woman whom I knew and formerly lived at Gimmerton answered. She'd been a servant there since the death of Mr. Earnshaw. "Ah," said she, "you are come a-seeking your little mistress. Don't be frightened, she's here safe. But I'm glad it isn't the master." "He is not home then, is he?" I panted, quite breathless, with quick walking and alarm. No, she replied. "Both he and Joseph are off, and I think they won't return this hour or more. Step in and rest a bit." I entered and beheld my stray lamb, seated on the hearth, rocking herself in a chair that had been her mother's when a child. Her hat was hung against the wall. She seemed perfectly at home, laughing and chattering, in the best spirits imaginable to Hareton, now a great strong lad of 18, who stared at her with considerable curiosity and astonishment, comprehending precious little of the fluent situation of remarks, with questions which her tongue never ceased pouring forth. "Very well, miss," I exclaimed, concealing my joy under an angry countenance. "This is your last ride till your papa comes back. I'll not trust you over the threshold again, you naughty, naughty girl." "Ah, Ellen!" she cried gaily, jumping up and running to my side. "I shall have a pretty story to tell tonight. And so you've found me out? Have you ever been here before? Been here in your life before?" "Oh, you sweet summer child. You should have stayed at home." I'm very sorry. I will do my best for this stream, but there might come a point where I need to end earlier, just because I'm not 100% right now. But I gotta keep going. "Put that hat on and come home at once," said I. "I'm dreadfully grieved at you, Miss Cathy. You've done extremely wrong. It's no use pointing and crying that you won't repay the trouble I've had scouring the country after you. To think how Mr. Linton charged me to keep you in, and you stealing off so. It shows you are a cunning little fox, and nobody will put faith in you any more." "What have I done?" "I've done that very specific thing you told me not to do, but now I got caught and I'm sad about it." She sobbed, instantly checked. "Papa charged me with nothing. He'll not scold me, Ellen. He's never cross like you." Poor Ellen. She's gotta be the bad guy. Come, I repeated. "I'll tie the riband. Now, let us have no petulance. Oh, for shame, you 13-year-old. You 13 years old, and such a baby." This exclamation was caused by her pushing the hat from her head and retreating to the chimney out of my reach. "Nay," said the servant, "don't be hard on the bonny lass, Mrs. Dean. We made her stop. She'd fain have ridden forwards. Afeard you should be uneasy. Hareton offered to go with her, and I thought he should. It's a wild road over the hills." Hareton, during the discussion, stood with his hands in his pockets, too awkward to speak, though he looked as if he did not relish my intrusion. "How long am I to wait?" I continued, disregarding the woman's interference. "It'll be dark in 10 minutes. And where is the pony, Miss Cathy? And where is Phoenix? I shall leave you, unless you be quick, so please yourself." "The pony's in the yard," she replied, "and Phoenix is shut in there. He's bitten, and so is Charlie. I was going to tell you about it, but you're in a bad temper. Don't deserve to hear." "This is This is Catherine's door, isn't it? I picked up her hat and approached to reinstate it, but perceived that the people of the house took her part. She commenced capering around the room, and on my giving chase, ran like a mouse over and under and behind the furniture, rendering it ridiculous for me to pursue. Hareton and the woman laughed, and she joined them, and waxed more impertinent still, till she was such a good girl until she went to Wuthering Heights. Oh, Daddy's gonna be so mad. Hareton and the woman laughed, and she joined them, and waxed more impertinent still, till I cried with great irritation, "Well, Miss Cathy, if you are aware whose house this is, you'd be glad enough to get out." "It's your father's, isn't it?" said she, turning to Hareton. "Nay," he replied, looking down and blushing bashfully. He could not stand a steady gaze from her eyes, though they were just on his. "Then, whose then? Your master's?" she asked. He coloured deeper, with a different feeling, muttered an oath and turned away. "Who is his master?" continued the tiresome girl, appealing to me. "He talked about our house and our folk. I thought he had been the owner's son, and he never said miss. He should have done, shouldn't he, if he's a servant?" I used to be a normal person like you, then I went to Wuthering Heights. That'll do it! Hareton grew black as a thundercloud at his childish reply. At this childish reply, I silently shook my questioner, and at last succeeded in equipping her for departure. Now get my horse, she said, addressing her unknown kinsman, as if he were the stable boys at the Grange. "And you may come with me. I want to see where the goblin hunt arises in the marsh, and to hear about the fairishes. And you call them, but make haste. What's the matter? Get my horse, I say." "I'll see thee damned before I be thy servant," growled the lad. "You'll see me what? asked Catherine in surprise. "Damn thou saucy witch," he replied. "There, Miss Cathy, you see, you've got into pretty company, I suppose. Nice words to be used to a young lady. Pray don't begin to dispute with him. Come, let us seek Minnie ourselves and be gone." "But Ellen," she cried, fixed in astonishment, "how dare he speak to me? Mustn't he be made to do as I ask? You wicked creature, I shall tell Papa what you have said. Now then," oh God, she just doesn't know. Oh. Hareton did not appear to feel this threat, so the tears sprang into her eyes with indignation. "You bring my pony!" she exclaimed, turning to the woman. "And let my dog free this moment." "Softly, miss," answered the addressed. "You'll lose nothing by being civil. Though Mr. Hareton here, be he not the master's son, he's your cousin, and I was never hired to serve you." "He, my cousin?" cried Cathy with a scornful laugh. "Yes, indeed," responded her reprover. "Oh, Ellen, don't let them say such things," she pursued in great trouble. "Papa is gone to fetch my cousin from London. My cousin's a gentleman's son, and my—" oh God. She stopped and wept outright, upset at the bare notion of a relationship with such a clown. "Hush, hush," I whispered. "People can have many cousins and all sorts, Miss Cathy, without being any the worse for it. Only they needn't keep their company if they be disagreeable or bad." He's not wasn't, Ellen! She went on gathering fresh grief from reflecting and flinging herself into my arms for refuge from the idea. I mean, she doesn't know, but do we really want her to know? No, we don't, which is why she never should have come here. I was much vexed at her and the servant for their mutual revelations, having no doubt of Linton's approaching arrival, communicated by the former being reported to Heathcliff, and the feeling as confident that Catherine's first thought on her father's return would be to seek an explanation of the latter's assertion concerning her rude kindred. Hareton, recovering from his disgust at being taken for a servant, seemed moved by her distress, and having fetched the pony round the door, he took to propitiate her, a fine crooked-legged terrier whelp from the kennel, and putting it in her hand, bid her whist, for he meant naught. Pausing in her lamentation, she surveyed him with a glance of away and horror, then burst forth anew. I could scarcely refrain from smiling at this antipathy to the poor fellow, who was a well-made, athletic youth, good-looking in features and stout and healthy, but attired in garments befitting his daily occupations of working on the farm and lounging among the moors after rabbits and game. Still, I thought I could detect his physiognomy and mind owing better qualities than his father ever possessed. Good things lost amid a wilderness of weeds, to be sure. Oh, 1 second, I really do. I need a fresh tissue. Nope, let's hold it. Let me see if I can mute, so you guys don't have to hear me. And we're back. To be sure, those rankness far overtopped their neglected growth, yet notwithstanding evidence of a wealthy soil that might yield luxuriant crops under other and favourable circumstances. Mr. Heathcliff, I believe, had not treated him physically ill, thanks to his fearless nature, which offered no temptation to that course of oppression. He had none of the timid susceptibility that would have given zest to ill treatment in Heathcliff's judgment. He appeared to have his malevolence on making him a brute. Malevolence. He was never taught to read or write, never rebuked for any bad habit which did not annoy his keeper, never led a single step towards virtue or guarded by a single precept against vice, and from what I heard, Joseph contributed much to his deterioration by a narrow-minded partiality which prompted him to flatter and pet him as a boy because he was the head of the old family, and as he had been in the habit of accusing Catherine Earnshaw and Heathcliff when children of putting the master past his patience and compelling him to seek solace and drink by what he termed their offald ways. And so, at present, he laid the whole burden of Hareton's faults on the shoulder of the usurper of his property. If the lad swore, he wouldn't correct him, nor however culpably he behaved. It gave Joseph satisfaction, apparently, to watch him go the worst lengths. He allowed that the lad was ruined, that his soul was abandoned to perdition, but then he reflected that Heathcliff must answer for it. Hareton's blood would be required at his hands, and there lay immense consolation in that thought. Joseph had instilled into him a pride of name and of his lineage. He would, had he dared, have fostered hate between him and the present owner of the heights, but his dread of that owner amounted to superstition, and he confined his feelings regarding him to muttered innuendos and private communications. I don't pretend to be intimately acquainted with the mode of living customary in those days at Wuthering Heights. I only speak from hearsay, for I saw little. The villagers affirmed Mr. Heathcliff was near, and a cruel, hard landlord to his tenants, but the house inside had regained its ancient aspect of comfort under female management, and the scenes of riot common in Hindley's time were not now enacted within its walls. So arguably it's actually gotten better there, which is nice. The master was not too gloomy to seek companionship with any people, good or bad, and he is yet. This, however, is not... One second. This, however, is not making progress with my story. Miss Cathy rejected the peace offering of the terrier and demanded her own dogs, Charlie and Phoenix. They came limping and hanging their heads, and we set out for home. Sadly, out of sorts, every one of us, I could not wring from my little lady how she had spent the day, except that, as I suppose, the goal of her pilgrimage was Pennystone Crags, and she arrived without adventure to the gate of the farmhouse when Hareton happened to issue forth, attended by some canine followers who attacked her train. They had a small battle before their owners could separate them. That formed an introduction. Catherine told Hareton who she was and where she was going, and asked him to show her the way, finally beguiling him to accompany her. He opened the mysteries of the fairy cave and 20 other queer places, but being in disgrace, I was not favoured with the description of the interesting objects she saw. I could gather, however, that her guide had been a favourite till she hurt his feelings by addressing him as a servant, and Heathcliff's housekeeper hurt hers by calling him her cousin. Then the language he had held to her rankled in her heart. She who was always love and darling and a queen and angel, with everybody at the Grange, to be insulted so shockingly by a stranger. She did not comprehend it, and hard at work I had to obtain a promise that she would not lay the grievance before her father. I explained how he objected to the whole household at the Heights, and how sorry he would be to find she had been there. I insisted most on the fact that if she revealed my negligence of his orders, he would perhaps be so angry that I should have to leave, and Cathy couldn't bear that prospect. She pledged her word, and kept it for my sake. After all, she was a sweet girl. Oh. Poor baby Cathy. She's just so innocent. For now, saucy witch was the equivalent of a South Park level profanity back then. It kinda was. You don't really be calling people saucy witches anymore. Though we should. It's a good one. Let me get some more water. Okay. One more fresh tissue. Got it. at it. Let's see if we can do at least one more chapter, and then I might call it for now. See if I can recover better for tomorrow. I can't be like this if we're doing D&D tomorrow. But it'll be fine. We suffer together. You can suffer with me, right? You can just suffer. Suffering. For you and for me. Suffering today. Anyway. Chapter 29? I don't know what that Roman numeral is. We're so far in. We're nearly 60% of the way through. A letter edged with black announced the day of my master's return. Isabella was dead, and he wrote to bid me get mourning for his daughter and arrange a room and other accommodations for his youthful nephew. Catherine ran wild with joy at the idea of welcoming her father back, and indulged most sanguine anticipations of the innumerable excellence of her real cousin. The evening of their expected arrival came. 19, is that? Ah, that makes sense, because it's like 1 before 20. Ah, no, hodo. The evening of their expected arrival came. Since early morning, she had been busy ordering her own small affairs, and now, attired in her new black frock, poor thing, her aunt's death impressed her with no definite sorrow. She obliged me by constant worrying to walk with her down through the grounds to meet them. Linton is just 6 months younger than I am, she chattered, with a stroll leisurely over the swells and hollows of mossy turf under shadow of the trees. How delightful it will be to have him for a playfellow. Aunt Isabella sent Papa a beautiful lock of his hair. It was lighter than mine, more flaxen, and quite as fine. I have it carefully preserved in a little glass box, and I've often thought of what a pleasure it would be to see its owner. Oh, I am happy. And Papa, dear, dear Papa, come, Ellen, let us run. Come, run! She ran and returned and ran again, many times before my sober footsteps reached the gate, and then she seated herself on the grassy bank beside the path, and tried to wait patiently, but that was impossible. She couldn't be still a minute. How long they are, she exclaimed. Ah, I see some dust on the road. They're coming! No, why would they be here? Maybe we not go a little way? Half a mile. Ellen, only half a mile. Do you say yes to that clump of birches at the turn? I staunchly refused. At length her suspense was ended. The travelling carriage rolled in sight. Miss Cathy shrieked and stretched out her arms as soon as she caught sight of her father's face looking from the window. He descended nearly as eager as herself, and a considerable interval elapsed where they thought to spare for any but themselves. She is very cute. She will be. I mean, we're about to meet Heathcliff's child, so who knows what that kid's gonna be like. While they exchanged caresses, I took a peep in to see after Linton. He was asleep in a corner, wrapped in a warm fur-lined cloak, as if it had been winter. A pale, delicate, effeminate boy, who might have been taken for my master's younger brother. So strong was the resemblance, but there was a sickly peevishness in his aspect that Edgar Linton never had. Oh, a second. The latter saw me looking, and having shaken hands, advised me to close the door and leave him undisturbed, for the journey had fatigued him. Kathy would fain have taken one glance, but her father told her to come, and they walked together up the park while I hastened before to prepare the servants. "Now, darling," said Mr. Linton, addressing his daughter, as they halted at the bottom of the front steps, "your cousin is not so strong or so merry as you are, and he has lost his mother, remember, a very short time since. Therefore, don't expect him to play and run about with you directly, and don't harass him much by talking. Let him be quiet this evening, at least, will you?" Yes, Papa," answered Catherine, "but I do want to see him. And he hasn't once looked out." The carriage stopped, and the sleeper, beginning roused, was lifted to the ground by his uncle. "This is your cousin, Kathy Linton," he said, putting their little hands together. "She's fond of you already, and mind you don't grieve her by crying tonight. Try to be cheerful now. The travelling is at an end, and you have nothing to do but rest and amuse yourself as you please. Howdy, welcome." "Let me go to bed, then," answered the boy, shrinking from Catherine's salute, as he put his fingers to his eyes to remove his impressed tears. Come, there's a good child," I whispered, leading him in. "You'll make her weep too. See how sorry she is for you." I do not know whether it was sorrow for him, but his cousin put on as sad a countenance as himself, and returned to her father. All three entered and mounted to the library, where tea was laid ready. I proceeded to remove Linton's cap and mantle and place them on a chair by the table. He was no sooner seated than he began to cry afresh. My master inquired what was the matter. "I can't sit on a chair," sobbed the boy. "Go to the sofa then, and Ellen will bring you some tea," answered his uncle patiently. He had been greatly tired during the journey. I felt convinced by his fretful, ailing charge. Linton slowly trailed himself off and lay down. Kathy carried a footstool and her cup to his side. At first she sat silent, but that could not last. She resolved to make a pet of her little cousin, as she would have him to be, and she commenced stroking his curls and kissing his cheek and offering him tea in her saucer, like a baby. This pleased him, for he was not much better. He dried his eyes and lightened to a faint smile. He will do very well." "He will do very well," said the master to me, after watching them a minute. "Very well. If we can keep him, Ellen, the company of a child of his own age will instill new spirit into him soon, and by wishing for strength, he'll gain it. Aye, if we can keep him." I mused to myself, and saw misgivings came over me that there was slight hope, and then I thought, how ever will that weakling live at Wuthering Heights? Between his father and Hareton, what playmates and instructors there'll be. Our doubts were presently decided, even earlier than I expected. 1 second. I had just taken the children upstairs after tea was finished, and see Linton asleep. He would not suffer me to leave him till that was the case. I had come down and was standing by the table in the hall, lighting a bedroom candle for Mr. Edgar, when a maid stepped out of the kitchen and informed me that Mr. Heathcliff's servant Joseph was at the door and wished to speak with the master. I shall ask him what he wants first, I said, in a considerable trepidation. A very unlikely hour to be troubling people, at the instant they have returned from a long journey. I don't think the master can see him. Joseph had advanced through the kitchen, and as I uttered these words, and now presented himself in the hall. He was donned in his Sunday garments, with his most sanctimonious and sourest face, and holding his hat in one hand, and his stick in the other, he proceeded to clean his shoes on the mat. "Good evening, Joseph," I said coldly. "What business brings you here tonight?" "It's Master Linton I must speak to," he answered, waving me disdainfully aside. "Mr. Linton is going to bed. Unless you have something particular to say, I'm sure he won't hear it now." "Yeah, not Joseph. No, I'm sick, Joseph. I can't speak your shit right now." "You better sit down there and entrust your message to me." "Which is his ram?" pursued the fellow, surveying the range of doors. I perceived he was bent on refusing my meditation, so very reluctantly I went up to the library and announced the unseasonable visitor, advising that he should be dismissed till next day. Mr. Linton had no time to empower me to do so, for Joseph mounted close at my heels and pushed into the apartment, planting himself at the far side of the table, with his two fists clapped on the head of his stick, and began to elevate tone, as if anticipating opposition. "Heathcliff has sent me for his lad, and I'm not to go back without him." I'm guessing that's what he meant to say. I have English to that up, but better. Edgar Linton was silent a minute. An expression of exceeding sorrow overcast his face. He would have pitied the child on his own account, but, recalling Isabella's hopes and fears and anxious wishes for her son, her commendations of him to his care, he grieved bitterly at the prospect of yielding him up, and searched in his heart how it might be avoided. No plan offered itself. The very exhibition of any desire to keep him would have rendered the claimant more I will. This is just a little cold. It just makes it, like, harder to read out loud. It's not that bad. It just makes me sound bad. And makes it difficult to do this, but we're doing it anyway. Some cold and flu drugs, some honey and lemon, and I will be right as rain. There was nothing left but to resign him. However, he was not going to rouse him from his sleep. "Tell Mr. Heathcliff," he answered calmly, "that his son shall come to Wuthering Heights tomorrow. He's in bed and too tired to go the distance now. You may also tell him that the mother of Linton desired him to remain under my guardianship, and at present his health is very precarious." "No!" said Joseph, giving a thud of his prop on the floor, assuming an authoritative air. "No! That means no! Heathcliff makes no cap to you, but he'll have his lad and want to take him now, so yeah, but you shall not tonight," answered Linton decisively. "Walk downstairs at once and repeat to your master what I have said. Ellen, show him down. Go." And aiding the indignant elder with a lift by the arm, he rid the room of him and closed the door. "Ah, well," shouted Joseph as he slowly drew off. "Tomorrow when he's coming, Islin, and thrust him out if you dare." Oh, poor Baba. Orange and honey tea. Oh, I bet that does sound nice. I am gonna end a bit early though, I think. We could probably keep going a little bit, but I just it's difficult for me to keep reading like this. And looks like the next chapter's kind of chunky, so let's not do that. Let's be smart. Let's look after ourselves. Be the streamer that I want you guys to be. Hey, look, I'm looking after myself. That's what you guys should always be doing too, okay? Lead by example. So thank you everyone for coming. I do apologize for this shorter stream, but I don't want to push. It's okay if you want to call it here. Help us. It do. I want to be able to stream well tomorrow as well, so I don't want to take it too far today. Cause then after that I'll be taking a break after Christmas next week, so I'd very much like to at least get all my streams in next week, so I don't want to push it today and then not feel like I can stream next week. So for now, thank you so much everyone for coming. Thank you everyone in... Oh yeah, we can't risk another Joseph monologue. That will actually take me out. Joseph monologue will happen, and then I'll just die, and then I'll have 2-week break because Joseph murdered me. That's what badly written English does to you. Thanks for the stream. It'll be like Heathcliff and stand beneath an open window in a storm brewing. This is such a wild book. I'm really looking. You guys put in the trailers for Limbus. I'm low-key looking forward to seeing what Heathcliff looks like in Limbus. I really am. But that's another reason I need to look after myself, because we're gonna try Ruiner again next week, and you know, fingers crossed I can actually get that done. Can I do fingers crossed? Yeah, just about. Fingers crossed. But anyway, yeah. We're gonna go. I am a saucy witch. Yes, we're gonna go. If you have not already, I'd appreciate it if you could leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. That would be lovely. Please check out, not the merch store, it's still closed. I plan on trying to open it again tomorrow. Patreon, Kofi, YouTube membership. If you're on Twitch, please give that a follow as well. And that's all the shit I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go make myself a honey and a lemon, and probably play more Infinity Nikki, because that's the comfort game right now. That's the sickness game. Bye, give her Brady. 'Twas short, but the VODs shall do. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I'll see you next time. See you tomorrow. Hopefully I'll feel better for some D&D tomorrow. Until then, I had fun. I hope you had fun. This has been Brandon West at Thunderfin Library. Goodbye. Goodbye.